Hello and welcome back to this particular video series. We are still looking at the 10 most repeated topics in biology UTME. Remember from our last video, I promised us, and I always fulfill my promise. I always try to keep to my promise. I promised us that I was going to be solving 20 questions, right? I promised I was going to be solving 20 questions from the 10 most repeated topics in biology UTME. So quickly, let's go into that. So now the approach we're going to be having here, we're going to be looking at these topics from the most repeated topic to the least repeated topic of the 10 of them, according to how I listed them in the previous video. So moving on to the first question, the most common characteristic of the fungal hyphae is the possession of a cell-like compartment with one nucleus each, cell walls that are rigid and chitinous. C, a multicellular mycelium in the substrate. D, cell-like partitions formed by cross walls. So we're going to be looking at characteristics that is actually common to every fungal hyphae. And is not shared by fungi and other organisms. What is unique to just fungi? So looking at this, let's look at the first option, cell-like compartment with one nucleus each. Every cell that has a true nucleus, every eukaryotic cell has just one nucleus. So this doesn't tell us if it's a common characteristic to fungal hyphae or not. Now looking at cell walls that are both rigid and chitinous, we're going to have the cell wall of fungi usually have what usually composed of glucans and chitins. It's composed of glucans and chitins. So these are very, very important components of the fungal cell wall. And now let's look at what chitin is. Now if you look at the exoskeleton of insects, let's use cockroach for instance, or your bed bug. Let's use cockroach. So you have cockroach. Now the outermost part of the cockroach, the body of the cockroach, is made up of exoskeleton. That's why you see that the cockroach is usually hard. So it's made up of chitinous exoskeleton. Now imagine the exoskeleton of this organism, insects, relating to the cell wall of the fungi. That's to tell you that this is actually very, 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 very strong. So it's rigid and it's also chitinous. So I'll pick this as my answer, but I will not ignore other things. A multicellular mycelium in the substrate. Basically, when you say the substrate is where this organism, where this fungi got its nutrients from. Let's say you can have soil as a substrate, you can have cellulose material as a substrate. So if you have a mushroom like this, usually if you have a mushroom like this, now we're going to have our substrate here, then we have the mycelium here. But these is just unique to basidiomycetes, which mushroom falls under. Having mycelium in the substrate is particular to basidiomycetes. Other organisms like the ascomycota and other fungi, they have their mycelium outside. The mycelium can run inside the substrate and it can also run outside. So that is not a unique feature of, or is not a unique characteristic of the fungal hyphae. And now let's look at cell-like partitions formed by crosswall. You usually have cell-like partition, right? It has like cell-like partitions, but not every fungi have this cell-like partition. Not every fungal hyphae has this cell-like partition. Some are like this, while some just lie like this. So you have when it is partitioned by cross walls, you have what is called accept it. When it doesn't have a crossword, you call it accept it. You call it accept it. So you can see that this is not the answer, because not every fungal hyphae has crossword. So moving on to the next question. Which of the following is incorrect? Which of the following is incorrect? The prothallus of a fern is a flattened heart-shaped structure. B is green because its cells contain chloroplast. C, it's the dominant plant. D, it bears sexual organs. So now you have to look at these very well. Which of them is correct? Now you have to know what the prothallus of a fern is. Now fern is under the phylum, under the kingdom Plantae, and under the phylum Pteridophyta. So it's very important for us to know that as long as you are a plant, you should have chloroplast. So these B cannot be the answer. And now the prothallus of a fern is actually the gametophyte of the fern. When I mean the gametophyte, anytime you hear gametes, what should come to your head? Let me spell it out. The gametophyte. Gametophyte. And anytime you hear gametes, what should come to your head is sex, sexual organ. So therefore it bears the sexual organ. Can you see how I'm eliminating it? So we have between A and C. Now if you know the structure of the prothallus of fern, is usually a heart-shaped structure. Usually a heart-shaped structure. Therefore you can see that the incorrect part is it is the dominant plant. It is the dominant plant. The dominant plant of a fern is the sporophyte. Is the sporophyte and not the gametophyte. So we can see the answer is C. Are we excited? Now let's move to the next question, because it's getting better. It can only get better. It can only get even more interesting. So now let's look at this. The organs of attachment to the lining of the host intestine are labeled A, I, and I. B, I, and IV. C, I and I. D, I and I. So before we answer this question, we have to label each of these parts. And to do that, we are going to write I here as our rostellum. And we have I as our hook. We have I as our sucker. And we have IV as our young proglottids. So it's very important for us to know this. So now, which of these parts of the organism here? And now you have to know this organism. Sorry, I didn't mention it earlier. This organism is definitely the tapeworm, which is under Platyhelminthes. It's a Platyhelminthes under the kingdom Animalia. It's a flatworm. So this is a tapeworm, and now you have to know how it's. What we want to check now is the organ of attachment to the lining of the host, and therefore the answer we can see here that the answer is hook and the sucker. It uses the hook and the sucker, this part here, uses this part here, and the sucker to attach itself to the host intestine, so that normal peristaltic movement will not displace them or move them away from the intestine. So I hope it's getting better. I hope we're excited. Now this is going to be the next question is going to be the last question for this particular video. We're going to be looking at more questions. I promised you they were going to be 20, so let's have patience. We're going to be tackling the 20 questions in this particular video series. Now let's continue. A characteristics that best exemplifies the evolutionary advancement of mammals over other vertebrates is the viviparous mode of reproduction. B. Possession of paired limbs. C. Terrestrial mode of life. D. Possession of a heart. Now you have to look at what feature amongst all these is unique to mammals. What feature among all these is unique to mammals? What is present in mammals and not present in other vertebrates? And I can tell you confidently and conveniently that the answer is viviparous mode of nutrition. And in case you do not know what viviparous mode of nutrition is, viviparous mode of nutrition is simply reproducing or giving birth to young ones alive. Only mammals give birth to their young ones what? Alive. Only mammals give birth to they nurse the child in their uterus, in their womb. They nurse the child in their womb and give birth to them alive. So you can see the answer is A. But I won't just ignore other options. I'm going to look at them. Possession of paired limbs. Most vertebrates have paired limbs. Even if we're not mentioning vertebrates, most animals have paired limbs. As long as we have, like, for example, we have mammals now, like humans, we have paired limbs. We have arms, pair of arms and a pair of legs. For dogs, there's a pair of arms, there's a pair of legs. For insects, for mosquitoes, there are pairs of legs. So these are paired limbs. So this is common within animals. So terrestrial mode of life, so there are so many organisms that live on land. So terrestrial mode of life is definitely not the answer. And there are many other animals that possess hearts. Aves, which are birds, possess hearts. Mammals possess hearts. So it's not just unique to that. That's why we can see that our answer is viviparous mode of life. So we've come to the end of the answering of questions. So quickly, if you want your child to score 300 and above in the upcoming UTME exam, I will tell you very well, it is important for you to get this package. It's important for you to get the I-Class simplified video series where expert tutors like myself studied and have given answers to over 600 questions. We cut across not just science subjects, we cut across art subjects, we cut across humanities, we cut across arts and humanities, we cut across businesses. So whatever subject you're looking for, you're going to get it. So to get this package now, please do well to call the number on your screen now. Thank you very much.